There is a technique so simple a child could build it: a roof, a gutter, a barrel. It has supplied drinking water to civilizations for 3,000 years. The Maya carved cisterns into limestone and sustained cities where no rivers flowed. The Nabateans channeled rain through Petra and turned a desert into a hydraulic society. Venice, the center of Mediterranean commerce, drank captured rain filtered through urban cisterns. It is taught in university engineering programs. It is mandated by law in Bermuda, where 85% of residents drink tank water daily. The United States Virgin Islands have required it on new construction since 1964. And in Colorado until 6 years ago it was illegal, not because it failed, because it worked. Prior appropriation doctrine, written in the 1800s, claimed every raindrop as tributary to streams you have never seen. The water falling on your roof belonged to someone downstream before it hit your shingles. A 55-gallon barrel was a threat to agricultural water rights. The law said so. It is called rooftop rainwater harvesting. This is not a story about physics that does not work. This is a story about physics that works too well without generating a single bill. Welcome to Forbidden Manual. The archive opens in 1930 in the jungle heat of the Yucatan Peninsula at the ruins of Uxmal. Eduardo Martinez, Chief Inspector of Archaeological Monuments for the state of Yucatan, stood before a hole in the limestone plaza that most visitors walked past without a second glance. It was bottle-shaped, carved into the bedrock, lined with plaster so fine it had survived 1,000 years of tropical storms. The Maya had called these chambers chultuns, underground cisterns, designed to capture every drop of rain that fell on the stone surfaces above. Martinez made a decision that would prove more than he intended. He ordered the ancient plaster repaired. He allowed the cistern to fill. Weeks later, archaeologist Franz Ballaume arrived with his field crew, expecting to haul water from miles away. Instead, they drank from a cistern built before Europe had indoor plumbing. The water was clean. The system worked. The Maya had solved this problem a millennium earlier. This was not a museum exhibit. This was functioning infrastructure. The Yucatan has no rivers, no lakes, no surface water at all in the Puuc region where Uxmal stands. The Maya sustained cities of tens of thousands using nothing but rain, stone catchment surfaces, and underground storage chambers carved into bedrock. They did not wait for engineers to invent the technology. They were the engineers. But the Maya were not alone. They coded it out. They can't code out physics. Subscribe. The next archive opens soon. Now let's get back to the investigation. Travel backward another 1,000 years, and the archive opens again, this time in the rose-red cliffs of Petra. The Nabateans carved a city from sandstone in what is now southern Jordan. Charles Ortloff, documenting the site's hydraulic system in the Cambridge Archaeological Journal in 2005, mapped a water supply network that balanced reservoir storage with continuous flow pipelines. The engineering maintained constant pressure across the city. No rivers fed it, no deep wells supplied it, only rain, captured from every surface, channeled through carved channels, stored in cisterns cut into rock. Petra sits in a desert. The Nabateans turned it into a hydraulic society. No surface water, no aquifer access, only captured rain pushed the timeline further. The Negev highlands of the Levant in the 3rd millennium BCE. Peer-reviewed archaeology documents, cistern systems designed for runoff and floodwater capture, baseline survival technology for Bronze Age civilizations across the eastern Mediterranean. The ability to store rain was not a luxury. It was the prerequisite for settlement. This was not experimental. This was civilization. Now move forward to early modern Venice. Historian David Gentlecore, writing in Water History in 2021, documented the city's dense network of cisterns, a fourth domestic water option alongside rivers, aqueducts, and wells. Venetian builders designed catchment surfaces, filtration layers, and storage chambers integrated into the urban fabric. Residents of one of Europe's most sophisticated cities drank captured rain. Venice was not off-grid. Venice was the center of Mediterranean commerce, and its water came from rooftops. 4 civilizations, 4 climate zones, 4 millennia, the same physics. Roof sheds water, gravity moves it downward, storage holds it until needed. The rain still falls, the roof still sheds, gravity still works. What changed was not the physics. What changed was ownership, not of the water, but of the legal right to touch it. In 2010, the Texas Water Development Board contracted a team at the University of Texas at Austin to answer a question that seemed almost too simple. What happens to rain when it hits a roof? Carolina B. Mendez and Bridget R. Afshar led the fieldwork under faculty researchers Carrie Kinney, Michael E. Barrett, and Mary Jo Kirasitz. They built pilot-scale roofs using asphalt fiberglass shingle, Galvalume metal, and concrete tile, and they collected the runoff. They measured pH, they counted bacteria, they tested conductivity, they documented what the Maya had known for 1,000 years with the precision of a modern laboratory. Their findings were not controversial. They were inevitable. 1 inch of rain falling on 1,000 square feet of roof produces 623 gallons of water. That is the formula published by Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension. Not theoretical yield, actual volume, minus only what splashes out or evaporates before reaching the gutter. A moderate storm on a modest home delivers enough water to fill 11 55-gallon barrels. The water arrives soft. The Texas Water Development Board confirmed what chemistry predicts. Rainwater has zero hardness. No calcium, no magnesium, no mineral deposits scaling your pipes, fouling your water heater, or leaving white residue on your fixtures. The agency's own manual describes rainwater as valued for its purity and softness. No treatment required for that quality. It falls from the sky that way. Real-world capture systems lose some yield to overflow, first flush diversion, and roof wetting. 75 to 90% efficiency is the planning assumption. Contamination exists. Roof runoff carries dust, pollen, and bird droppings. First flush diverters route the dirtiest water away from storage. Filtration handles the rest. Potable use requires treatment, but the baseline quality starts cleaner than most municipal sources before chlorination. Now feel what this means in your own home. Picture January. Your water bill arrives. $62. You paid for every gallon that came through the meter, the shower, the laundry, the dishwasher, the toilet you flushed 11 times yesterday. Now picture June. Your garden is dying in the heat. You drag a hose across the yard and watch the meter spin. Every gallon that touches your tomatoes adds to next month's bill. The rain that fell in April, the rain that pounded your roof for 6 hours, is 40 miles away in a municipal treatment plant. They are selling it back to you. Your roof is already a catchment surface. Every storm, hundreds of gallons sheet off your shingles, pour through your downspouts, and vanish into the storm drain. You are not installing a new system. You are interrupting a loss. The barrel costs $70. It lasts 20 years. The water bill comes every month, forever. A recycled food-grade barrel runs $50 to $75. A downspout diverter adds $15 to $30. Spigot, screen, and overflow fitting, another $30 at most. Salt Lake County, Utah offered complete setups at $57 through their May 2025 pickup program. Bluefield Research reported that combined water and sewer bills increased 24.1% across their benchmark set between 2019 and 2024. The physics is trivial, the yield is documented, the softness is measured. So why did Colorado treat this as a water rights violation until 6 years ago? The answer is not hidden. It is written into law, 19th century law, carried forward without revision for over 100 years. In the American West, water is governed by a doctrine called prior appropriation. The principle is simple: first in time, first in right. The rancher who filed a claim on a stream in 1872 has senior rights over the farmer who filed in 1890. When water runs short, junior rights get cut off. Senior rights keep flowing. The doctrine was designed for streams, rivers, and irrigation ditches, but legislators and courts extended it further, much further. In Colorado, the state constitution declares water property of the public, subject to appropriation. Douglas County's official rainwater guidance uses language that makes the extension explicit. Precipitation captured and consumed out of priority may deprive downstream and senior rights holders of water that originates as snow and rain. Read that again. The rain on your roof was spoken for before it hit your shingles. Not by a corporation, by a legal doctrine that treated precipitation as tributary to streams you have never seen. For over a century, placing a barrel under your downspout in Colorado was, in the eyes of the law, diverting someone else's property. They wrote water law in the 1800s that claimed precipitation before it touched your roof. They maintained that doctrine for over a century, while Bermuda mandated the same technique by law. They created a legal structure where the simplest path for a homeowner was to do nothing and keep paying. Change came slowly. In Utah, Senator Scott K. Jenkins and floor sponsor Representative Patrick Painter shepherded Senate Bill 32 through the legislature. It took effect May 11, 2010. The new law allowed residents to collect rainwater with limits. 2 covered containers, each holding no more than 100 gallons, required no registration. Anything larger required filing with the State Division of Water Rights. The registration costs nothing, but the paperwork exists. Permission to store rain in excess of 200 gallons requires a form. Nevada followed 7 years later. Assemblywoman Maggie Carlton sponsored Assembly Bill 138, signed in 2017. The law carved out a de minimis exemption, small-scale rooftop collection for non-potable domestic use no longer required a water appropriation permit. The barrier dropped, but only for limited capture. Colorado held longest. You stand in your backyard in Aurora. It is May 2015. Rain is pouring off your roof, flooding your flower beds, rushing down the driveway into the street. You own the house. You own the roof. You do not own the right to put a barrel under the downspout. That is not a metaphor. That is the law. 1 year later, House Bill 16-1005 passed the Colorado legislature. Prime sponsors Representative Denea Esgar, Representative Jesse Danielson, and Senator Michael Merrifield pushed it through committee and onto the governor's desk. The bill legalized residential rainwater collection within boundaries so narrow they read like a compromise with opponents who could not stop the tide entirely. 2 rain barrels, 110 gallons total. Residential buildings with 4 or fewer units only. Outdoor use exclusively, lawns and gardens. Same property where collected. The bill included provisions for downstream injury reporting and directed the health department to develop vector control guidance. It prohibited homeowner associations from banning barrels outright, though aesthetic regulations remained permitted. They capped Colorado residents at 2 barrels and 110 gallons, enough to water a garden for perhaps 2 weeks. They restricted use to outdoor irrigation, ensuring you could not reduce your indoor water bill. They required injury reporting pathways, treating a 55-gallon barrel like a potential threat to agricultural water rights. The economic logic beneath the doctrine is not a conspiracy, it is structure. You cannot meter rain, you cannot build gravity, you cannot create a subscription for a barrel that sits in your yard and fills itself. The technique that eliminates recurring revenue violates the economic model that fixed cost infrastructure depends on. The Texas Water Development Board, the same agency that publishes the state's official rainwater harvesting manual, acknowledges this tension openly. Their documentation describes rainwater harvesting as a way to reduce summer peak demand and delay treatment plant expansion. The agency calls the relationship between roof and storage tank a natural synergy. They note it reduces consumer utility bills. The state agency that promotes the technique acknowledges it saves money and delays infrastructure costs. The legal system spent a century blocking it anyway. The doctrine is cracking, slowly, unevenly, but the cracks are real. In Salt Lake County, Utah, conservation programs now sell subsidized rain barrels at pickup events, $57 for a 55-gallon setup ready to install. The same state that required registration until 2010 now helps residents get started. The barrels come with explicit guidance, landscape use only, not for drinking water storage. But the barrier has shifted from prohibition to paperwork to encouragement. Progress measured in 5-gallon increments. At the AMD Spansion Semiconductor Facility in Austin, Texas, the math plays out at industrial scale. The Texas Water Development Board documented the site's rainwater and groundwater perimeter drain capture system, a 10,000-gallon fiberglass tank feeding landscape irrigation through online flow meters. The facility saves approximately 4.75 million gallons per year. Return on investment, 3 years. This is not hypothetical. This is a Fortune 500 company proving the physics works. But the sharpest contrast lies offshore. In Bermuda, rooftop rainwater harvesting is not permitted, it is mandated. The building code requires every structure to include a catchment roof and storage tank. Government documentation reports that approximately 85% of Bermuda residents use their tank water for drinking on a regular basis. Same Atlantic rainfall, same roofing materials, same gravity. In Bermuda, your roof is a legal obligation. In Colorado, it was a legal violation. The comparison grows sharper still. The Virgin Islands Code, Title 29, Section 308, has required cisterns on new construction since May 1, 1964. An American territory subject to federal oversight mandates the same system that Colorado prohibited for another 52 years. Australia made the shift through economics. Australian Bureau of Statistics data from March 2013 showed 34% of households and dwellings suitable for a rainwater tank had installed one. The drivers were water restrictions during drought, rebate schemes that reduced upfront cost, building regulations that encouraged installation, and tiered pricing that made municipal water expensive. Australia made capture easy. America made it paperwork. Germany inverted the incentive structure entirely. European Environment Agency documentation of Bremen's stormwater policy describes separate fees for rainwater versus wastewater, calculated by impervious surface area. Install a capture system for toilets, irrigation, or storage, and your fee drops. Subsidies and refunds reinforce the economics. Germany built a system that rewards capture. America built doctrine that punished it. The practical path is not complicated. A recycled food-grade 55-gallon barrel costs $57 to $75. A downspout diverter costs $15 to $30. A spigot, bulkhead fitting, debris screen, and mosquito mesh cost another $20 to $35. Cinder blocks or a wooden stand for elevation cost $15 to $25. Total system cost $107 to $165. Time required 1 Saturday afternoon. Tools, saw, drill, hole saw, level, skill level, handy homeowner. Colorado State University Extension emphasizes one compliance detail. The container must have a sealable lid to meet state law. The legislators who broke the doctrine have names: Representative Denaya Esger, Representative Jesse Danielson, Senator Michael Merrifield in 2016, Senator Scott K. Jenkins, and Representative Patrick Painter in 2010, Assemblywoman Maggie Carlton in Nevada in 2017. It took until 2016 for Colorado to allow 2 barrels. It took named legislators, committee hearings, and a bill with downstream injury provisions. The rain required a legal defense team. Earth tubes were coded out. Passive solar was appraised away. Lime wash cooling was buried under HOA bylaws. Thermal mass walls were replaced by code with stick frame insulation. And rainwater, the most obvious, most ancient, most gravity-dependent source of household water, was claimed by doctrine before it hit your roof. Building methods that eliminate recurring bills are systematically excluded. The pattern repeats. They will not tell you that 85% of Bermuda residents drink rainwater captured from their roofs by legal mandate. They will not tell you that the U.S. Virgin Islands have required cisterns on new construction since 1964. They will not tell you that 1 inch of rain on your roof could fill 6 55-gallon barrels, and that Colorado law caps you at 2. They will not tell you that the Texas Water Development Board calls rainwater free and zero hardness, while most states offer no code pathway for indoor use. 1 inch of rain on 1,000 square feet yields 623 gallons. The physics has not changed since the Maya carved cisterns into limestone beneath Uxmal. The physics has not changed since the Nabateans channeled rain through Petra. The physics has not changed since Venice built filtration chambers beneath its plazas. The doctrine changed. The ownership model changed. The assumption that water must arrive through a meter was invented recently. The rain does not know it is regulated. It falls on your roof the same way it fell on Petra, on Venice, on the Yucatan. It waits for a gutter, a downspout, a barrel. It waits for you to decide that gravity is enough, that the water arriving for free does not require a subscription, a meter, or a monthly bill. A technique that requires no subscription, a material that requires no patent, a system that asks for no service contract, no recurring revenue, no permanent dependency. The rain is still falling, the barrel is still $70. The only question is whether you will capture it or watch it drain into a system built to sell it back to you. Every share preserves what doctrine tried to claim. Every build proves what code committees could not erase. Next week, the ancient cooling technique that dropped interior temperatures 20 degrees using nothing but physics, mud, and a geometry the HVAC industry cannot sell. The archive opens in Shibam, Yemen, 1732.